Howdy, everyone. I'm your host, Zach Hansen, and welcome to the Okayest Trapper podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. This gentleman is an Idahoan, a very successful hunter, a houndsman, and wouldn't you know it, a trapper too. Most of you listening likely know him as the founder of Maniacs and follow his exploits on social media or through his TV show of the same name. He's an outfitter, a USA archery instructor, and clearly comes by his Maniac moniker, honestly. Shane Mowery, that's a heck of a resume, and welcome to the show.
Hey, man, I'm happy to be here, Zach.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you up here. I know we got a little bit jumbled on our time zones because I'm a little bit slow myself, but I'm glad we were able to make this happen.
Oh, heck yeah, man. We have nothing but time.
That's a good thing. But, you know, for me, I'm super interested because if I'm not mistaken, just based on the research I've done, you started your journey into the outdoor world back east hunting whitetails, similar to like I did. Is hunting back east also where you first started to get into trapping as well?
I did a little bit trapping back there. I've kind of been a resident of several states wherever Dad had worked, you know. So that's one place back east though is some place that I could give a shit less if I ever see again. You know what I mean? So, anything east of the Mississippi, I'm okay to just say, yep, I'm once and done. You know, so whitetail is still big, you know, as far as hunting those. You know, luckily right here in Idaho, we're plentiful with Idaho and close to Montana and right here in Washington across the border as well. So like in the 4 states, I can be with any good whitetail hunting, you know, within 4 hours, you know. But to answer your point about trapping, you know, I was just a little guy back there. So, you know, it was one of those things where I've seen it done, but I really didn't get into it much, you know.
Yeah. So then what was kind of your first real trapping memory then? I mean, I know you've done a lot of hunting, guiding, the whole lot, but what was your first foray into the trapping world then?
It would have to be rabbits. My dad liked beagles and running rabbits and things like that. My uncle was more along the lines of the bear and you know, lion, the red bones and things like that. So I learned to catch rabbits with homemade boxes early on. Are
we talking like a cartoon where you took the stick in the box and kind of put some bait under it, or what are we talking?
So, you know, as corny and as generic as that sounds, I can remember that my dad would make these cage traps, or he would hand build these, you know, out of plywood or whatever. And he would definitely use a cherry stick. I remember it like it was yesterday, that he would notch those and put the bait in the bottom of those for those stupid cottontails to come in there, you know, or some of the snows to come in as well. And by golly, they would work, you know. And I would say that was, you know, kind of, I don't know if it piqued my interest at that point. It was more or less a chore for me to do these because he would trap those live trap. I mean, I started off learning on live trapping. So that was my first experience of doing trapping. And he would use those rabbits to train his hounds, you know. So that was the whole reason for live trapping. I still use those type of methods today on training my pups, you know, but you know, there's other things that I'm really trying to digest and dive into as a trapper. I don't know if I would call myself a trapper or a houndsman, but I sure do give it hell. You know,
you know, it's ironic. There are often times I hear disputes between houndsmen and trappers, right? I mean, oftentimes you might be running dogs and get a dog in a foothold, or God forbid, a snare. So, you know, kind of straddling both worlds. How do you handle that, or does that ever affect you at all with running dogs and trapping areas?
I think a lot of it has to do with just knowing the area that you hunt, and knowing who's hunting in that area. Um, and I think in the outdoor world, thanks to social media, uh, hunters live in a world of who's got the biggest set of nuts and who's got the biggest head. So they're too proud to go and talk to another, houndsman or trapper, and you know, they just bully their way in, and that's when usually shit gets out of hand. And I always felt like if hunters, no matter, I see this within the archery world, so I'm using this as kind of a guideline of what I use in archery and crossbow and rifle, because you always, or the trad bow, and I grew up learning the trad bow, so you got the elitist, the pure, whatever you want to call it, right? So, I guess my point was made is, if folks would just do a little more of, instead of diving right in, instead of doing a little more research, I think those casualties with hounds running into snares, or in footholds probably be limited, don't you think?
I would hope so. I mean, I've personally never run into it myself, thankfully, but you hear about it here and there, and I think it does probably boil down to what you're just saying. There's a little bit of pride, and if you just talk to the people who are running in your local area or paid attention to it, you might be able to overcome a lot of those issues.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I usually, if I'm like, I mean, anybody that knows me, even my buddies, like, they don't know where I hunt. I cover my track, and that's just how I am. I don't want to run into people when I'm out there. That's my time. That's
Mhm.
my time. I don't want to see another human. You know what I mean? So it's like, uh, so it's, the better off I am if I just don't run into people. But if I do, then I'm packing in. Most houndsmen just rig on their truck and drive around. And if you have a dog box and you rig on your truck and you drive the roads, you're a houndsman.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I consider it. I don't know enough about dogs to know any different. So I'm sure there's definitely levels, and like you said, the correlation with bows, whether you're doing trad, compound, crossbow, whatever, versus road hunting with dogs versus packing in with dogs. I'm sure there's different tiers to that too. But all I ever see up where I'm at are essentially road hunters with dogs.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, I think with technology and whatever, the things we have. I guess folks get complacent with being lazy and whatever's easiest, and um, I'm guilty of it to a certain extent. Everybody wants to catch something quick, right? but I also know that, like, I want to be out there and that's my time, and so I do my diligence of getting the hell away from people.
And, you know, I run into that. The area and the unit that I'm in, whether it's elk hunting, trapping, except for really deep in the winter, it's pretty sparse. But it's inevitable that you run into people or you might see people. How do you avoid that? I mean, for me, I might see somebody and then I kind of just pack in further or go to a different area and just go further. I mean, is that kind of what you're relegated to, or do you just go ahead and say, screw it, and you go as deep as possible every chance you get in order to not see anybody?
Yeah, kind of that way, Zach. I I've seen more folks this past year on my cameras than I have any other time, and I'm thinking, what is people doing? Are they somebody stick a GPS on me or what? You know, um, and I try to do really really good about packing in away from folks because, like I said, I just don't want to see people. But I think 5 and 6 miles off of a really rugged terrain, which I know holds pockets of animals historically, because that's where I've hunted or whatever, and I'm like, that's where I devote my time. And I usually pick out, like for whitetail, I'll pick out a buck and that's what I want to hunt,
Mhm.
and go from there, or an elk, which it's been sparse in my unit. thanks to the wolves. But it's one of those things where Idaho is getting more congested. There's more people coming in. There's more tags. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, we could just throw spitballs, and one of them's going to stick with everything that's going on. Of why there's more people hunting. I mean, hell, I just found out recently that most people track folks that are fairly successful in the outdoors and like try to figure out where they're hunting at by just the pictures. And I'm like, I don't have that much time, nor do I have that much smarts to figure that out. You know what I mean? So,
You and me both.
You know, yeah. I mean, but I've heard that's the same. You know, so.
Yeah, and to what degree? I mean, there's only so much you can do to, keep it a secret or, keep people away. So it's kind of the inevitable, I guess, that we all have to deal with, which is unfortunate.
Well, yeah, put some 850s all around the place.
Yeah, face towards the enemy, I guess. But so I won't say where, but you're kind of in northern-ish Idaho. I'll leave it at that. But coming from when you had your little box as a kid, trapping cottontails for your dad to train up dogs, you're now in a spot with obviously more critters. And from a trapping perspective, and I know that's not your sole focus, but outside of wolves, which is a big focus area, I think, for every trapper in Idaho, or if it's not, it should be. What other critters are you targeting up there with traps?
So I do a lot of live trapping for bobcat. And that's the same way, because I like to train my pups on bobcats. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're able to have a good hound that's going to trail and tree a bobcat, you got yourself a good dog. So for a number of reasons, bobcats are pretty tricky, and they tree jump. They're very methodical about their approach and how they ascend and descend and get away. They always have an escape route, so it's a good pup trainer. So I do a lot of live trapping for the bobcats, and sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not. This year I've been pretty good. So
Yeah, I saw a couple pictures. That looks awesome. So from that perspective on live trapping bobcats, what have been the sets that seem to have worked best for you this year? I mean, you said you've had a little bit of success. Is it just different types of bait, feathers, anything like that? What's kind of the secret for bobcats this year?
Well, I won't tell everything, but I think one of my plans, and I don't mind sharing, if somebody was to say, hey, I really would like some help with a set, I would definitely help them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But I will make this point. I don't kill the bobcats. Once in a while, I'll take a good tom. I was able to let my son kill his first bobcat. So I mainly once I catch them, I'm gonna try to catch them again. They get smart. You know what I mean? So but I just use them for training for them. So one of the things that I don't like in Idaho is that there's no limit on bobcats. So I feel that I could go in a canyon or I can go in an area and I could wipe out bobcat. I could trapping hounds. I could take care of that whole area in about one season. You know what I mean? So, it's one of those things where, and that's why I don't, I just don't, take one or two here and there. You know what I mean? So if that, this one is like the one that we took a week or so ago. That's the first one I've taken in like 8 years. So I've got a lot of cats since then. You know what I mean?
Awesome. And part of my ignorance, like one thing that I really want to do, and I'll have to come up and visit you, is hunt with dogs. And I know nothing about the world of hound hunting or really what goes into it outside of podcasts I've heard or people I've talked to. But when you're live trapping these cats and you're not taking them for a pelt or fur, how does that look? like, how do you train up a dog on a caught cat? What does that look like? And this is just my pure curiosity poking through.
Yeah. So basically, the only thing I do is I'm on a fresh scent, and let them trail. And I usually the cat has a good 10-15 minute trail. He's gone, and then I'll put my pups on that scent, and then he could be in the next unit by the time they get to him. I don't know. Sometimes we get them treed. Sometimes the hounds get their asses kicked. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I just need good fresh scent. You know what I mean? And sometimes, we don't always have the snow at the right time or whatever. So, having that there at my disposal, but doing it, just seems it's like with anything. You got to have the animal if you're going to be able to train it. So
That's
but
awesome.
But I mean, I think one of the things to success with catching the bobcat, from what I've seen this year, where each year I kind of methodically do things that didn't work last year and now they're working, is just the placement. I've came to the point where, like, you got to think like a cat. In all honesty, that damn thing's no different than a house cat. It's really not. So I will share one secret that's
All right.
everybody here, is I use a shitload of catnip.
Really?
Yeah, a shitload.
Well, that's I've never thought about that before, but that sounds like that would work pretty well if they are no different than a house cat.
I've a lot of guys use CDs. I know you're not supposed to use feathers, well, of a native species, and things like that. But I feel like like the shiny stuff with CDs and things like that to draw the attractant. I don't know. I know it gets their curiosity, but sometimes I've had them come right underneath my trap, look at the CD, just sit on their haunch, look at the CD, and walk away.
Really?
And then I got bait in my trap, and he didn't pay no attention to the bait. I know damn well he can smell it, or she, So I've studied them because I'll put a camera on it. I'll put a black light camera on it, and because I want to learn too, So I want to know, what can I do different. So I mean, that's been one of my keys.
That's a good one. I'm taking a note on that one, and then hopefully I won't get into the catnip myself. But
If I see a picture of you rolling around with it,
yeah, if that one goes viral, you'll know what happened. It'll be your fault. You'll have to post my bail. But outside of cats, then, I know we talked a little bit prior to about wolves. So I know across Idaho, it's a big. How is it looking in your unit right now from a wolf perspective? And is that something you're also targeting?
I can take you right to the release 28 years ago on this mountain. I can take you right to the spot.
Yep.
So they're still here. The numbers that people think are here in Idaho, let's just take this for instance. So Fish and Game claims that there was roughly 1,500 animals last year.
Mm-hmm.
How many did you take? Like almost 1,300. So, and there's still a shitload. There's a lot of wolves here. I've seen in the past 20 some years the elk decline in this unit. I know this unit very well. Better than what I do in your unit where we live down there, so downstate. So it's just it's a bad ordeal. And I've come more, I've always known, I've known for a long time that when I'm out elk hunting, they're not responsive. Hunting on Bergdorf or hunting in the McCall zone is like, I would call in more wolves than what I would elk. It's a problem, and every Idahoan knows it's a problem. Every resident here that has hunted here, for the past 20 years, 25 years, know it's a problem. But I feel like a lot of them just bitch about it and they keep hunting big game. Well, I want to be a person that I want to hunt big game, but I need to be a part of the solution. So I'm going to start killing these bastards. And so it's one of those things where I'm not going to depend on Fish and Game or somebody else or stakeholders that's setting them out all the time. As long as we're able to take them, we're going to take them, and that's how I feel about it. So I feel like we need to get better at killing them, and because I mean, we're never going to eradicate them, unless I mean, I know that they were near extinction at one point, but there was people actually hunting. They were hunting them for a reason, like how elk hunters hunt elk for a reason. And I think hunters now need to hunt them for a reason because I have a conspiracy theory in my head of why these things keep getting hard releases out all the time. And it's just, I mean, I get so pissed off even talking about it, to be honest with you, so it's one of those things where I felt like I needed to like step up to the plate on what I've been doing, as guiding and hunting and things like that. So
is that what's kind of taking you down the path then of outside of opportunistically hunting wolves to either directly targeting them or also trapping them? Is that what's kind of pushed you down that path?
Oh yeah, they're right. I mean, from now till, when I get into turkey season or into, it's game on with those bad boys. Well, I can say that, with what I have here lately, we're going to see some dead ones showing up real soon. I got them comfortable. Well, put it that way. I feel like I got them comfortable right now. You know what I mean? So, and I feel like the reason I haven't taken any so far, I haven't put myself in that position, but they're there. I see their tracks. They're hitting the piss trees. They're shitting on the piss. They're doing everything that I want them to do right now in the area where I know that's their rendezvous point. And it's just a matter of me like, okay, they're not on a 21-day cycle. Now I got them down to like, they're here every week. And so timing is good for me because I want to be able to get all 7 of them at once and not just one of them. Because I feel like if I don't get them all, well, they just got smarter, because I'm not going to be pleasant about it. You know what I mean? So it's full on fire.
Like the trap smart, if you don't get a pack, it is hard to retarget those animals. It is ever impressive to me how well they adjust to their surroundings, especially if you have a few miscatches or only get a few. It's hard to get back on them.
Yeah, I think that I've heard some things about with guys saying, or I made comments like I think more guys need to get involved with trapping them, and then I had one guy that's a pretty experienced trapper. He's like, yeah, but the only thing they're going to do is just educate them. I'm like, well, you had to start somewhere, didn't you?
Yeah.
So yeah, it may educate them, but so is calling them in. I mean, he may circle you at 400 yards because I've had it happen to me. I didn't get a shot at him, but he knew I was there. I did not know he was there until he got the hell out of there. All I see was running away. And I mean, the only thing I did was educate him at that point, so.
It's never, there's no good answer, but I like your approach. We need more outdoorsmen, whether they're trappers, hunters, getting on these animals. And you might have some folks, probably myself included, who are more on the amateur side of the house and may educate them. But if you got them out there, you got steel on the ground, I consider that a win, especially when these kind of cycles are getting shorter. You mentioned a 21-day cycle. The packs running around my place have been on closer to a 30-day cycle. But this October, I was out kind of in the wilderness area, I was fresh on some wolves. And the very next week, I went back in the same spot. And I'm like, there's no way within 7 days these wolves are going to be back after they got pushed out. And sure enough, I was right back on what I think was the same path. And it's just, there's just so much game that they're just harassing all over the place. And they're cycling shorter and shorter, it seems like.
Yeah, especially in this area that I've really been targeting them. It's in a migration zone, and it's just kind of like the property reminds me of Geronimo. Where you just push them off the cliff, and I feel like when they get them down in there, then they know they don't have to leave. And historically, like last year, there was 2 wolves taken out of that property last year, and so they're there. I mean, I got a bunch of juveniles on camera. I feel like those are going to be the easiest ones I can get. You know what I mean? So, I have things planned for them. You know what I mean? So it's whether the plan goes or not, we're going to know here in the next couple of days. The snow's out. I have my scent lines. These are the things I don't mind sharing. This is the things that I'm out every day. Yep. I mean, there's not a day that I'm not out. It's just my job. And so it's one of those things where I'm trying to figure them out. I don't know if it's right or wrong, if it's how somebody else does it, but it seems to be getting them in front of the camera where I want them. And they have no idea about that camera. Now, I have had cameras before that I've had to, basically skin up the tree and get them so they're down so that, it's kind of like with elk. I know they can get the radio frequencies, and the canine is fairly smart too. I mean, a wolf is just unprecedented as far as how smart they are. But so I've just, trial and error, right? That's been my approach because I really haven't had anybody to teach me like this is what a wolf does. Like I've been in close contact with wolves, and I haven't had a weapon on me at all. You go in and locate an elk because you got hunters for the next morning, and there it is, and you're like, I'm such a dumbass. I don't have a rifle with me, But that wasn't in my mindset, and I guess that's the point I was trying to make earlier, is that I'm in the mindset that I'm going to kill an elk, and the whole time I should have been in the mindset as we're surrounded, we're hunting with wolves, and I was just too stupid to realize it. You know what I mean? I think that's where a lot of us are, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean it's like we were so used to the old ways of being able to go out and hunt because, Idaho is a very prolific. I mean, it's where everybody wanted to be, to hunt, but they didn't want to live here because they couldn't handle the terrain. But now everybody wants to come here. You know what I mean? So, I guess that's kind of how I look at it,
I love that approach though. And it stuck out to me this past rifle elk season in my unit. So where I'm at in Atlanta, there's one bar, right? So kind of end of day, they stay open late during hunting season. So people who weren't camping out or being a little further out would come and all congregate at the bar, right? And you have people coming to this one location from all areas of the unit kind of every single night. And the one time we weren't camped out in the wilderness, we were there, and there were at least 5 different accounts of people either seeing wolves and at least 2 people taking wolves. So it's just insane how spread out they are right now. And I think everybody has to be in that mindset of, if you're out hunting in Idaho right now and you have a wolf tag in your pocket, you're wolf hunting as well.
Oh yeah. I really think that should be like never in the back of your head.
Yep.
Because the way I look at it is, and this is what I try to tell guys coming in that hunt with me, or just if I'm out on the First Hunt Foundation, or if I'm mentoring a kid or something like that, it's like you always have to be aware of, like, these are the predators that are here. 9 times out of 10, if we're on an elk herd, so is a pack of wolves. And you got to keep that on your back, in the back of your head, or actually in the front of your head, because they know where those elk are all the time. They don't leave, they don't leave at all, it's just the thing about with wolves is just they're just constantly nomads. You know what I mean? They don't stick around, unless it's whelping season or something like that, right? So that's kind of been my new approach to, like, in all honesty, I just got so pissed off of not hearing any elk talk. I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah, there's been 2 occasions in a different unit than where I live, where I was hunting 3 years in a row, where I was out archery elk hunting, talking to elk, bull bugling, without fail, on a ridge right nearby, you hear some wolves go off, and then those elk just shut up. And not just for the day, but at least, the following day, and then it's just silent. And every season so far in the past 3 years, that's happened to me as well.
Daggone. Yeah. It's the normal here. I really feel like that. I mean, I feel like mule deer in the state are down. Elk are definitely down. I don't care about the statistics, what they see. This is God's honest truth. There's 365 days in a year. I would almost bet, you can ask my wife, she'll attest to it. I am in that wilderness 320. You know what I mean? I have yet to run into any biologist, fish and game guy, or anybody that's on foot trying to figure out what the problems are and how can we better our animal ecosystem. And that's what I hate, is that it's kind of like with the folks back on this living in the 500 square foot flat and concrete jungle, try to dictate how we live. Is you got the desk jockey that's trying to give us an education on what's out there. I'm like, nah, I know better. It's just there's got to be a better solution for conservation.
Yeah, I think I know the answer, maybe. And I was reading an old book, or it's a new book, but it's a book about old times when the Conservation Corps started in Montana, of all places. So that was the original park rangers. And though they did do their counts and everything, those rangers were out in the field about as much as you were, on snowshoes, doing elk counts, being with the animals, going to talk to trappers. So they were putting in, 180 miles on snowshoes over a 7-day, venture. And then they were taking 2 days off and going back and doing it again. So to your point, you got to be out in the field. And if you're not living out there like you and I, then you're not seeing it firsthand.
No. Well, I got some wild videos that really the public would cringe. I get death threats all the time. I get people call me up and cuss me out. It's a normal thing for me. I'm like, how come you guys don't come to my door and do this? Idaho, it's not a big deal. We have the Castle Doctrine and Stand Your Ground law. I mean, by all means, but yeah, it's one of those things where you need to be out there. You need to see it, and it's just, I don't know. I get pretty irate about the things that I feel like it just should be. It's just common sense.
Yeah, but common sense isn't always in, abundance in our world. Wherever you live, whether we're out in the woods or whether we're in a big city, it just seems to be sparse all around. I'm guilty of not having a lot of common sense sometimes, but that's a good segue though to another question I had. You said, you have a lot of cell phone footage from out in the woods, stuff like that. So in your entire career of being in the woods 320 days a year, What's the wildest thing you've ever come across in the woods? It could be aliens. It could be a guy in a loincloth. Whatever it is, like, what's the wildest thing you've ever encountered?
Well, everybody's gonna like laugh at this and think like, we're in Sasquatch country, right?
It's true.
No, I'm just kidding.
Man, I got excited too. I'm not a full Sasquatch guy, but if you were going to tell me you saw one, I was going to believe it.
No, hell no, man. No, I'll believe it.
You would have shot it, so we would have definitely known, right?
Depends on if I had a weapon or not.
True.
Yeah, it's been one of those times like, you'd never believe what I saw. And I was out elk calling, and there he was, Bigfoot.
Yeah.
I killed him. Idaho has tags for these things. We need to get them out of there. No. I hear those stories though, like this one lady down in Reagan's like seeing Bigfoot. I was like, man, she was spending too much time down at Seven Devils Bar. You know what I mean? But no, wild things. It's normally on the hunt, and it normally happens with hounds. I've had some pretty crazy things that went on with hounds. There's a lot of commotion. There's a lot of shit going on, with the hounds. You got a cat up in the tree. You got a cat bait up. You got a bear bait up, on the rocks or whatever. And you got, 5 or 6 hounds that's in his face. Put it this way, if a lion only knew what it was capable of, there's not a hound out there that could stand a chance. There's not a pack of hounds out there that could take out a lion. It's just not. I'm
always impressed with that when I do see hound videos of dogs baying at a lion, got it cornered on rocks or in a tree, and then I've seen other videos when a lion's in go mode tearing something up, and it's always impressive. I don't know what the mindset there is, if it's fear from a lion, or what's the case from your point of view that kind of keeps those lions from really just taking out a pack of dogs.
Well, it's kind of like the same way. I'll go back to my house cat theory or whatever. So if you have a dog, just a house dog and a house cat, and the dog, once in a while, even if they get along, he's always, once in a while, he'll try that cat, and they'll pair up, and the cat will lay back, and he's sitting here waiting for the dog to get in his face, and the cat's, he's had enough, and then all of a sudden he swats the shit out of him. And it's the same way with a lion. I feel like their demeanor is they just want to be left alone. It's the same way when they kill something, and we can get on that here in a minute, but it's like they just want to be left alone when they're eating. They want to be left alone because really their purpose is they eat and they sleep. They're lazy. I mean, that's a good word. They're lazy, so they really aren't aggressive. I mean, like a lion, the only time a lion is aggressive is when he's hungry. That's the bottom line. And so I feel like that's what my point is. If he knew what he was capable of, he could thrash all those hounds, kill them all, and be done. I've witnessed a couple of lions, or one lion taking out several hounds, you know what I mean? Before the shooter is able to get him down, you know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of things. He's lazy, he's complacent, or he just doesn't have the mindset until he's pissed off to like, I've had enough, get out of my face, So that's my explanation for cats,
Yeah, cats are interesting, man. And from a trapper's perspective, some of the most interesting videos I've seen are, wolf trappers getting an accidental catch of a lion and then hand releasing it. The cats seem pretty complacent all told. But boy, man, like that's a bigger set than I have to be able to go and do that by hand.
Get your catch pole down and try to weasel that thing out of the foothold. Yeah.
Yep.
just take the 22 mag and say, I'm out of here.
Yeah, that not ashamed to say would probably be my approach, but those videos are definitely harrowing and really impressive. But with all the trapping, whether it's trapping bobcats to train your dogs on, whether it's trapping wolves, or even going back to catching cottontails in a box as a kid, objectively, you've been very successful hunting, especially in the trad arena. Would you say that trapping, whatever exposure you've had to it, has helped you become a better hunter? If so, why? And if not, you can say no too.
Well, I think all of it is, and it does, because my key to success in taking and punching tags is learning the animal. I learn his habitats. I learn what he does. And once I'm able to figure those out, anyone, I mean, really, once you're able to figure out what he does, when you come down and look at it, every animal that we target, yes, we have to beat them in their bedroom, but that's not the point I'm trying to make. The point is like, once you figure them out, they're very easy to take. It's just figuring them out. And the guys that are out hunting just on the weekends don't have the time to get them figured out. They're only there for a short period of time. So most of the time when a guy kills a whitetail when he's hunting, it's by chance, or if he's out just for the first time, they kill one by chance, because the elk are running the same play, they're nomads too, so I think a lot of it has to do with just, the old saying, right place, right time. But for me, it's a little different because I'm learning that animal, trapping it. I'm getting him up close. Every trap that I put out, well, I won't say every one of them because I don't have that many cameras, but I try to put a camera on it because I want to know what he did. I want to know how he's approached. Did he not like it? Just looking at his gestures, his body language, all that stuff tells me something. If it doesn't, then I'm not looking into it deep enough. You know what I mean? So, or anybody, I think if you do that, I feel like you're going to understand a lot more of what they're doing. If I use a bait and they don't go in it, I don't use it again. If that bait's there, he ain't gonna come back to the same thing. Or I caught him that time. So, and if I don't catch him on the first time, then I pull that set and I'm on. It's because I feel like he already knows, like, Shane's here, gotcha.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it does make me a better hunter. I think it would make anybody better hunters. And I think, if you're catching them in a live trap, my opinion, I feel like that's the hardest thing to do is live trap anything.
Yeah. I can attest to that. I've had my first foray into live trapping recently, where I've been live trapping pine marten for a study, and getting those animals to commit to go into a live trap is next level trouble when you don't have a conibear sitting at the front to body grip them.
Yeah. Those things are just flat out mischief.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. It definitely makes you a better hunter. And I try to encourage people. I think for me, being really an adult onset hunter and somebody who didn't really get into it until my 30s and then took up trapping, I do believe that time studying animals, regardless of the species, definitely rolls over and makes me a better hunter too, even though I focus more on trapping than anything else these days.
Yeah, I think it does, Zach. Just with seeing those things and figuring out a cycle. I have a bobcat. It's usually, about 16, 17 days. Usually the bobcat comes on that cycle. I look for the scratches. I'm trying to study And typically wherever a lion is, yeah, I know that the deer are normally there, but they're normally, at the same time. They're always at the same time. They're always crossing at the same time. And I don't know if the deer are just used to the same travel corridor as the lion is, or the wolf. I would think that they're just used to it by now, and I feel like they know where their escape routes are, and so that's what they have. That's how they live, right? I mean, they had to live that route. I know here in the Lolo unit, that the elk have started running the high ground a lot more than what they did 15 years ago. Because they can barrel off in an area that I'm thinking, how the hell did he get down in there? Or, how do they do that? So they have escape routes all over the place. And, and if you study, if you're in certain canyons, actually all canyons, it's a heavily corridored elk trail, a game trail. And then, if you were to pull those trails up off the earth, it would look like the pipelines are. You know what I mean? It's just grid everywhere. So, what I've done is try to study those trails and figure out when are they on that trail. And this is how crazy I am. I will put a camera on that trail until I figure out how often they hit that trail that I want to hunt. And it may be every other month. That's crazy with elk. That elk may only hit that thing every other month. Well, there's a reason for that. I think there's a reason for that. So it's the same way with how I'm trying to figure out anything. Why are they using this trail and not the one that's got the thickest cover and they got easy route? Are they coming back from a source? Or are they going to a source? Why are they only using this one every other month? Where are they coming from? Where are they going? And why? So those are the things I try to figure out why I'm out there.
That's PhD level education, man. That's awesome. That is inspiring me to be more methodical in the way I'm approaching and thinking and studying the terrain that I'm playing in.
I don't know what it is about you, Zach, but it must have opened up something, because I've never told anybody that kind of stuff.
Maybe it's what's in the glass. Maybe that's the culprit.
A little bit of Pendleton helps.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt, but no, that truly is inspiring. But before you spill too much more, I want to keep your secret safe. I want to poke on another area that I know you have expertise in, and that's log homes. Is that a fair assumption?
I don't do anything with the chainsaw anymore. So everything's full-time outdoor hosting and TV side media content. So I haven't been able to pick up a chainsaw in a long time. So I'm thankful that I've retired the steels.
Well, I'm going to have to ask you to go back in the recesses of your mind and, think back to the days that you were putting and chinking logs and doing all of that, because where I'm at, there's a lot of log homes, and now I'm kind of known as the resident local trapper. So what happens when somebody gets a pack rat or a marten or a skunk inside their log home, whether it's in their rafters, wherever, I'm the guy they call. And it only ever happens to people who have a log home. And I don't know if it's because of poor build quality or if it's just the nature of log homes. And that's what I wanted to ask you. Is it, poor build quality, or why is it that all these critters seem to nest up inside of these log homes up by my place?
I don't know. I've asked my dad that too. He's the builder. And I've asked that a lot of times. I'm like, you always get, all the animals that get in there. And I'm thinking, is it just because it resembles a tree. I mean, obviously, I mean, it is a tree or whatever, you know. So that's the best solution that I can ever think of is like, well, it makes them feel like this is home. You know, is there a crevice to get in or whatever, you know, for them to harbor and create habitat. So for me, I think that's the reason for them, you know. And you're right. I think a lot of, you know, even birds. I mean, we got birds out here that all come up and shit on the log post. You know what I mean? like that's not a branch. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that's probably the reason. I would assume, you know, but
Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't know if there was some secret that you were holding on to from your days working on log homes that you were going to be able to share.
I don't think there's any secret to that. You know, I've never really put thought into that one.
Well, so now you can have something to keep you up at night, and you can thank me for it later. So, last question from me, and this one is a hypothetical scenario. These are things that I like to do. So, let's pretend that you're in purgatory, which I can only assume is a mall. At least that's my purgatory. So, you're at a mall. You're taking in all the really bad smells of perfume and cologne. You're watching people shove Cinnabons in their mouths. And you see droves of people going in and out of this luxury store. And they're buying a jacket, a Canada Goose jacket with a coyote fur lined hood. All right. Someone sitting next to you is petting their fur on their $1,500 jacket and talking about how synthetic fur is becoming so realistic. But you know that that's a real fur. Do you leave that alone, or do you strike up a conversation with them and let them know where it actually came from?
I would be that guy that I would let them know where it came from. Because the world is full of ignorance right now, full of it. And I say with full of ignorance is because, I mean, if you haven't, I mean, you will. It's just in time. Social media makes it a lot more accessible, and I think it's always been there, but now social media makes it in your face. With people being able to hide behind the keyboard, call you a worthless POS, you know, you're a hater, you're this, you're that, you're a murderer, you know, because you're killing animals. But yet they'll go right down and chow down on a hamburger. You know what I mean? Yep. So yeah, I would like to tell them, like, yeah, and give them a good PhD background on why. But I think, I don't know, Zach. I mean, like, I don't know where. I mean, I know where, but I think, like, I don't know where people get off on thinking that it's not in our DNA to hunt and gather. I mean, I don't think that. I mean, I know that we've evolved in the past 200 years. You know, technology has like shortchanged us a good life. It's going to shortchange our children a good life. I mean, the way I want to live. You know what I mean? How I want to raise my kids. I think it's shortchanging people in general because you're under the thumb of government. You're under the thumb of everything, of being able to just enjoy life. You know, you constantly have to work, bust your ass, just for what? So, I mean, I know we got off subject of it, but it's like, I guess my point is to circle back to that is people just don't understand anymore. They don't get it.
Yep.
I mean, they probably wouldn't listen to me either. They would probably say, "You killed an animal for this coat?" Well, you know, I mean, I tell you what a country is, and it might be a lot of people get pissed off. I tell you what, a country that knows where real fur comes from, and that's Russia, because that's where a lot of it goes. You know, they understand it. We've gotten soft. That's the bottom line.
I agree with you. And, you know, I used to live in Russia, actually, you know, small fact, way back in the day, over 12, 13 years ago. Yeah. Sadly, I wasn't, and I lived in Kyrgyzstan too, another great hunting place. Sadly, I wasn't hunting or trapping back then, so I missed out on a lot of great opportunities. But it's true. It's a situation where a lot of our furs are exported, whether it's to Russia or China, and they're all just sold back to us as luxury handbags. it's kind of a bizarre thing, but nobody's educated.
Well, it is. I mean, I feel like we're educated on an agenda that's not really pro. I don't know. I mean, for lack of better words, not pro an outdoorsman's life. And it's not how I just want to be left alone. You know what I mean? I don't bother anybody until you get in my face and I'm gonna shoot you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's just how it is. It's like, just leave me alone. Let me do my own thing. I'm not gonna break the law. I'm not gonna do this. I just want to go live peaceful. You know what I mean? And I think for the most part, it's how most Idaho people are. But
I think that's true, and I think that's where it's a shame, because there's no other pursuit, hunting included, where I feel it's so easy to step back in time and feel what it was like to be one of the original frontiersmen, one of the people who helped build the country into what it is, which was always fur trappers, right? Whether you're stepping in a river, chasing a cat, and you do that today in 2023, 2024, you step back in time. And that's amazing. And it's sad that that's almost looked down on now, even though it's still funneling and supporting a luxury trade in most instances, especially if you're selling fur, things like that. It's just a bummer. It really is a bummer to see that that's kind of looked down on, even though that is literally what our country was founded on.
Well, you're so right, and you make a good point with that, because it does, when you're trapping, it does make you fall back in time. Every time I pick up my stick bow and I go out, I feel like I have to put myself in that place just so I can live how I really want to live now, because it's not here. If it wasn't for like advertisement and things like that, I wouldn't even have social media. I gotta wait. You know what I mean? I don't like it. I don't like dealing with that crap. We don't have TV. I don't let my kids have iPad and all that other garbage. You know what I mean? Some parents are like, really? I'm like, yeah, really? I bet you my kid can go kill something with a slingshot. You know what I mean? I mean, those are the things that matters to me. I really don't care if he can, be a NASA physicist. You know what I mean? That doesn't. It's not going to happen. You know what I mean? So,
well, the good thing is it might, and that's what's interesting. And we have the same philosophy. Like, we don't have a TV in the house. Our kids are outside most of the day. It warms my heart to see that they don't ever want to come inside. They want to play outside. They want to be doing things outdoors. And if either of our kids one day get an interest in how you get to the moon, fine, they can go learn that. But, they're not going to be stuck glued to an iPad from 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. They're going to have to get out and feel and learn and, be attached to the earth in a different way than I even was growing up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's, I feel like I see it even with teaching the archery classes, for the S3DA and going around the state at the different regions and seeing the kids and just seeing the different levels. Some are really like how we are of teaching our kids, and some of them is just, they don't want to be there but their parents is making them, because they want to have some type of foundation with being outside. And that's kind of it's really trying on me and to the coaches for like how we make this work, how we make this entertaining so the kids want to enjoy it. It's up to us to make it happen. We make it happen, but just for the life of me, I just don't understand why the kids need to go out and play. I mean, it goes back to this theory that I have. It's like they don't want us to do that. You know what I mean? So it's it's a very different life anymore. Very different
Yeah.
life.
I don't know where it's going. I don't have a lot of optimism, but I do have a lot of optimism for folks like yourself, folks like me, and other people that'll be on this show, and people who do run in social media. I mean, there's a lot of benefits to it. You know, it's a necessary evil to a certain degree, and we've talked a little bit about that. But, you know, overall, Shane, this was awesome. You know, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, coming out of the woods, you know, to actually chat with me about trapping and, you know, your experience with it. I know I learned some things. I know you might have divulged more than you wanted to, but we'll maybe we can bleep a few things out. But before we cut this off, can you let everybody know where they can find you, learn more about you, or watch your shows?
Yeah, they can hop on the back of the hound truck and they can follow me around for a day.
I'm going to be taking you up on that one.
What's that?
I said I'm going to be taking you up on that one.
You know, obviously everybody, you know, you can find me over there on the gram, and I don't fool around Facebook that much, but when we do some documentary series, and I do feel like educating some things. I work with the tribes and stuff like that on some of the bison hunts, and you know, some documentary series and things like that. That's America for me. You know what I mean? So we do things over on Carbon TV on that. So we have a couple new things coming out. Hopefully maybe this year. I don't know. Depends on. I don't get really energetic about filming anymore. I feel like it's just it's not what it was 15 years ago. You know.
Yeah.
When I did my first video with an 8mm. You know what I mean? So. You know, I've been at this for a while. I've never been good at it, but I've been at it for a while, you know. So I feel like it's easier to tell your story now, but it's harder to get people to listen, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Because I only have their attention span for 30 seconds, and then they're off to something else. They're scrolling. So whereas, you know, I couldn't wait to, you know, pop on Tom Miranda's trapping episode to learn some goofy shit that he was doing, you know what I mean, on Saturday morning, ESPN or Sportsman's Channel. You know, I couldn't, you know, wait to do that, you know what I mean? But that was kind of like a highlight. It wasn't on, might have not been on sports, but it was on something that it would just air on regular TV. I can't remember because we didn't have cable TV. But anyway, it was one of those things. But it's a lot different now.
It sure is. That attention span is way lower. The time to get attention is way lower, and you know, by virtue of that, people just don't engage, and you have to meet them where they're at, which is unfortunate. And I'm sure that probably takes a toll on, you know, creators like yourself who've been doing filming for a long time, where you used to be able to do long form, and now you got to keep it cut short and keep that attention span. But you know, it's a learning process for all of us. But you know, you heard it here, folks. Shane, go give him a follow. Bone Maniacs. Support a fellow hunter trapper. Keep him out in the woods year round. I know that's what he wants. That's what I want.